I guess it's our last panel for today. Let's begin and let's share all of the interesting insights about investment and innovation. So I have a fantastic and super diverse panel here today. So please welcome Paul, who his experience been fantastic, cross-regional, building the gaming ecosystems from Canada to now Middle East, and being running the holodeck ventures, right? And being a host in CNBC Arabia as well. But Paul, I would like you to introduce yourself and like to.
Don't start with me. Age before beauty, please.
Okay, Kishore, with us today. So you are the founder in residence, right? And Mind Pixels. We would love to definitely know what does it mean actually, and how to get the job as a founder in residence. Very interesting, because usually it's called like entrepreneur in residence. So I'm very curious about that. And very nice to welcome you. It's good that you flew over and managed everything. I heard about the crazy stuff, what was happening with your flights. So you're being an analyst in Ludus Ventures, right? Yeah. So guys, please introduce yourself and to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, guys. My name is Kishore, and I'm the founder in residence at Mind Pixel Solutions. So basically, we are into VR gaming and AR. We provide services in other sectors as well, such as healthcare, automotive, and education, using the VR technology. And as Christina mentioned, the title Founder in Residence is much more similar to the Entrepreneur in Residence. So it's basically, I have another company which is a full funded Mind Pixels. So I manage the operations here in Dubai, globally, from Dubai. So apart from that, I'm also part of another startup which is into casual gaming, and it's more of a play to earn model. It's a social prediction game. It's still in the early stages. And I'm also the global head operations for XMinds, which is funding the entire Mind Pixel solutions. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Gorkem, how about you?
Hello, everyone. I'm Gorkem. I'm Gorkem. Focusing on gaming. Really thinks we exited really to Zynga for $220 million. That will continue our investments in gaming industry, specifically for Turkey. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Paul? No mic?
I'm the last. I'm going to have trouble hearing me. And there's only like 10 people in this room, so thank you, guys. Thank you for...
We know you from CNBC.
Okay, good. I know. I'm just so famous and so good looking. It's hard not to remember. Most people know me as the Prophet. I spent most of my career on one side of the startup table or another. I was either building companies or funding them. I managed a very well-known venture firm called Garage in Silicon Valley for many years. And then I ended up co-founding what became one of the few Canadian unicorns of the last decade, a company called Maple. And 6-7 years ago, decided to focus everything I was doing on gaming. I'm a hardcore gamer, like really hardcore. I played Apex Legends professionally, like that recently. I was ALG at Season 1, signed to a Tier 1 award. So like I love gaming at a very deep level. I think gaming and fun is going to be the biggest industry on the planet. It's going to be the biggest wealth creator over the next 20 years. So I do three things today. I work with governments to figure out what they should be doing around gaming. I spent half the year last year in this building trying to convince Abu Dhabi to create an investment program to invest in gaming, which was announced in December of last year and then canceled in January of this year.
not necessarily, I don't want us to focus too much right now on the region because gaming always been a global product, even though there are obviously VCs having certain theses, supporting certain regions. But in general, what's happening now, what do you see going to be happening next year, or maybe what founders need to prepare for? You want to go first?
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
I think it depends who you ask. I'm just curious, how many of you guys are working or founders of like game studios or gaming companies in general? You're working at or you started one.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest? Just interested? Okay, creative. Okay.
Platforms. Yeah.
So for the people running game studios, this is the worst time probably in the last 20 years to be trying to raise money for a game studio. This is, your life is hell. It's terrible, right? There's some funds and there's some generous people like me who like losing money. But for the most part, it's a really bad environment. 2-3 years ago, if you were a Web3 game, it was a little bit easier. But for traditional game studios, even today, it's really bad. If you're a VC or an angel, this is the best time ever. Because everyone's coming to you for money. You dictate all the terms. There's almost no competition for good deals. And so I think this is the best time ever to be investing in game studios. But if you're on the other side, it's rough. Now, market to market is different. My perspective is always Middle East. I live here, I work here, I spend all my time here. It's hard to get me on a plane to go anywhere. There are pockets of money here. There's a lot of money that's being committed at the highest level, but it's not filtering down to you guys yet. I think this will happen. And so my advice, to sort of long story long, if you survive the next 2 years, I think you will be in a tremendously strong position to raise a good round in the region from the region.
That's a very good point. I don't know if it's working. No, probably we'll continue this way. Okay, you can hear me, right? Yeah, we just had another discussion just a couple of hours ago in terms of what government is doing here in order to kind of help and support to get through this period of time with the different grant programs, which are not massive amounts of money, but it's something to help companies sustain and learn how to build businesses, with the lowest expenses possible, right? So how is it for Ludus Ventures? Are you guys just focused on Turkey or not? Like, what's your thesis?
I would say something. This is really true. The best startup is the one that survives. If you survive, at some point you are going to be successful, but it's really hard. So after the post-idea phase, the Apple procedure, and 2020, after the balance of COVID pop, we see so many. It's really declined in terms of VC activity. The billions that got in the industry got lost, and I honestly don't think that that's really bad because money went to the place that it didn't deserve it. So some founders raised so much money with crazy valuations, and that money got lost really quickly because the industry was quite tough. The revenues after post-idea phase with the COVID declined really bad. So most of the VCs stopped actually invested, not stopped but decreased their activities with the interest rates as well. So this is not an industry that got affected by one thing. It's really it's like a living organism. So yeah, it went really bad, but I'm really hopeful for the future of the gaming industry and startups. We see increase, especially in last Q4 2024, it's increased really well. Some startups actually, we see the deal activity happening again, the Easy Brain, Miniclip deal. Now we get some deals going back again. Industry is getting back to the normal. This is an industry that is getting bigger every year. So I'm really hopeful for the future in terms of gaming industry. But yes, it's one of the hardest time to raise capital for sure.
Right. And do you think we will see more deals happening in, let's say, Q2 next year? Because usually the Q4 It's a very good period for those companies which already tested games to scale up, and January very good period for scaling, let's say, mobile. So them acquiring users, getting the traction, and actually having the case to fundraise. Do you think Q2, Q3 next year we can see some better performance when it comes to new deals coming to new studios, not backing up existing portfolio companies, but actually, investing in the new companies?
Yeah, for sure. I believe that each quarter that is going by, the deal activity will rise because the gaming industry is getting back to the normal. That's how it's supposed to be, not with the COVID numbers. It's getting back to the normal, getting back to the track. With that sense, yes, we will see lower numbers than COVID, but it wasn't supposed to happen anyways. We will see the normalization, I think, in terms of VC activity in gaming.
Kishore, how's it for you? Because you guys are building product, right? So you on that side, where are you guys fundraising? Did you fundraise, or how been you growing so far? What's your journey?
Well, we've been fundraising for another startup which is also into gaming. It's into social gaming. But I agree with Paul. In my perspective, I see that post-COVID, before COVID, if you ask anyone that I'm going to invest in a gaming company or gaming studio, people would say that either you're mad, or maybe they would say that, yeah, good luck. But post-COVID, the scenario changed. So what happened is, during COVID, people started spending more time on their screens. So the investment perspective changed, and mostly everyone wanted a piece of this industry. But it spiked in such a high manner that, right now, as Paul mentioned, the investments are pretty much capped. So I would say that the investments are going down. The spike would be a little bit low, maybe for a couple of years or maybe 3. And after that, we are going to see a rise on the investment part, especially on the new studios. And right now what is happening is everyone is either using age-old wine in a new bottle, because the concept is entirely changed. Creativity is getting low right now. So the entire part of having a game is basically fun. So we are losing that fun part, because most of the games are either having the same concept, maybe same storyline, but characters are different. So people tend to try to find much more creative aspect of the gaming. So that is why I said that the gaming investment might be reduced for quite some time, but later on we'll see a big spike.
Right. So considering this shift and change in investment scene, right? So it means that the early stage founders now need to be quite creative in terms of where they're getting the users from, because at the end of the day, in order to prove that your game is performing, you need to have certain traction in place in order to even have a discussion, right? So we see a lot of founders working with creators. Before, it would be something they would do at later stages and plan this as a later stage campaigns. But now they, even for their soft launches, they're already acquiring, planning this work with a different type of creators, influencers, etc. Because there is a hunt for, I wouldn't say it's a free traffic, but it's a different way of acquiring users rather than just traditional, ads campaigns with Google, Maps, etc. From the platform perspective, I think it's very important to have continuous communication, founders to founders, and teams which I'm working with always know that there is this a moment of you can't know everything, so you need to ask other founders, what is working today. For example, the uploading campaigns are being performed recently very well for founders in order to get this traction, then to talk to VCs. So talking to what VCs wants to see today, because at the end of the day, investment is a relationship, right? Even though we know there is this moment of not maybe enough investment happening, deals investment happening now, is it still worth of building the relationships? Because it doesn't mean that you should be sitting and waiting for 2 years and just developing the game, right? What do you think? How these relationships should be built? What's the best approach?
Expecting a check from a VC the first time you meet them is like expecting sex on a first date. It works sometimes, but quite rarely. Quite rarely. I think you always have to build those relationships when you don't need a VC, when you don't need an investor. This is the strongest negotiating position as a founder you'll ever be in. So you want to be talking to them when you absolutely don't need them. In fact, when you can actively push them away. I'm not raising, I don't need money right now, just trying to get to know you. VCs love this. We're sheep, right? Like the idea of the founder who doesn't want us picks at that psychology in our brain that makes me want them more. Having said that, I think for me, what I'm always evaluating is the game fun, right? At the end of the day, an idea on a piece of paper for me is still too early. I have to see something, I have to play something. And it's easy for me because fun is at the core of this. And if I think it's fun and I will tell my friends to play this, chances are other people will as well. That's how I think about it. Now, that's a subjective opinion, but we're talking about an industry that makes art. This is not, ball bearings for factories. It's art. And so it's always going to be subjective. It's always going to be people's opinion. But what you find is fun games tend to be pretty universal. And so for me, is it fun? I think, to your question about user acquisition, if you don't have money, if you haven't raised money, acquiring users is hard. Costs money. So you're a little bit of a catch-22. The advice I always give is the people who have money are publishers. They're usually quite flush with cash. And it's okay to give up a big chunk of your game or the back-end proceeds of the game if it means you will have success. Because if you've had one successful game, the chance that I or any other investor will back you for the next one goes up exponentially. And so my view is don't be greedy short-term, be greedy long-term. Cut these kinds of deals, make these kinds of partnerships, have a publisher pay for user acquisition, have publishers pay to finish your game. There's a lot of these kinds of deals out there. And this is how you get around sort of needing VC money right at the beginning.
I love that you touched upon the topic of publishers, because this is actually one of the pain points what studios here in the region are facing right now, and it's for both mobile and PC and console games. So it's, even though the companies, they're doing a lot of things in terms of, being there for beautiful conferences, showcasing, etc., but it hasn't been that easy to build those relationships with the publishers. My question is to you guys as you're doing the investment. So let's say if the company signs up the publisher and the publisher is taking care of user acquisition, would you still back them up if they will come to you to fundraise saying that they will build their in-house team and they will next stage will do the marketing themselves, or now they're out of the market for you?
It's definitely not the deal breaker, but for our case, for our portfolio, we like to go with more independent studios. Yes, going to publisher is really, not every startup is VC fundable. VC fundable is, if it's beneficial for both ways, yes, but if you start as a company, you don't have to go to VC. There are literally so many options to go for. If you need to raise capital, there are lots of options. VC is not the...
Like what? Maybe you can give a couple of examples.
Crowdfunding, angels, bootstrapping, which is, I bootstrapped my own PC company for 3 years, so I understand the heart of it living. It's really hard to survive bootstrapping your PC Steam company. At that time, I raised money for my own company. I couldn't find any capital, so I failed. And I say failed in that sense because it teaches me so much that I'm using on my job daily. But at that time, for the outside opinion, I failed. I couldn't raise capital. But from now, being a VC for a year, I can understand the fact that I wouldn't even invest in myself back then, because not everything is VC fundable. If it wouldn't be beneficial for them, it wouldn't be beneficial for me. So, in terms of your question, publisher deal is not something that is deal breaker, but most of the VCs would like to go independent route. So being independent would be better, but as I said, it all depends. And the situation is very complex. It all comes to the situation, founders, the rev share, and everything. But it's not something that would be a deal breaker.
Okay. And in your portfolio, you focus on both PC and mobile, or it's priority on?
So a little bit of back knowledge. So our partners actually come from the tech business, and one of our investments is which was a Rolex Turkish publisher, was acquired by Zynga, which I mean, for our whole career, we work with the mobile games. We really know development and user acquisition really well, so we continue our investments in that area. And 90% of our portfolio does mobile, but we are really interested in PC, console, emerging markets. We really want to invest in those areas as well because it's a really big chunk of the industry. It's really beneficial. It's really promising, but it's hard to set up those unit economics in PC and console. The return of investment might be longer than expected in mobile, and it's something that we are not really experts of it. But if the founders talk about a mobile studio, anything related to mobile, we have an idea and an opinion about that. But the PC is something I personally know. I released the game on Steam and I did all publishing and process. But as a fund, Loose Ventures, we are really still new to it. So again, we are really interested, but for now, 90% for portfolio is mobile.
Got it. So if the studio is mobile and if they're early stage, because you said an early stage fund, right? What is the early stage? It's pre-seed and seed for you, or you look later on?
Yeah, it really differs, but pre-seed, I mean, we have investments that happened in 1 week with just an idea and tech. So we invested $1 million to, let's not disclose the name, but we invested in a company in. We met them in 1 week, it went really well. The co-founder actually created a subgenre in mobile, which was wow, it was a really great accomplishment. We met, we sit, it took like 1 week, and we invested.
But that's not the normal scenario,
that's
right? It's just
normal.
like, just to set the expectations, not something which is happening normally.
Normally,
yes.
As I said, in the first, you don't get that in the first rounds, first stage. It takes around a month if everything goes well, because the legal procedure is quite long. You do the due diligence, it's not like an easy process because even with like the legal work behind it, because there are specific countries that you can or cannot invest depending on very based. So
of course.
the legal backlog is quite boring, quite long, but it takes around a month, let's say, application to the final money in the bank.
And what is the best way to get on your radar? So what is it? Is it introductions from other founders, from your portfolio, or you meeting somebody at the conference? Do you actually call messages to you, reach outs actually still work?
I actually, Loose Ventures has something that we are really proud of. We 100% go back to the cold emails, cold LinkedIn. We always respond, we always have meetings, because it's really important as being ex-founders for ourselves. It's really important to support everyone. So, I mean, again, it really depends. Best way is in this ecosystem, talking to VC and letting that VC talk to another. So, in today's ecosystem, VCs don't invest that much. We always go, mostly like 90% go co-invest in startups, or depending on the ground, mostly it's co-investment. So if another VC comes to me and says we are investing this, that's almost a done deal. That's really good. But we had some deals in that sense with very big VCs around the world. But the best way is another VC. If it's not a hard track. If you get one investment, it's really easy to get others. But for first, I would say LinkedIn messages, these events really work really well. And mostly the network, like introduction from one to another, really works really well.
It's good to hear, because what we've heard a lot from other VCs is that because of the change in the scene, that many of them are more focused on one thing is backing up their existing portfolio, because they get less support from others VC backing up their portfolio. So they have to make sure that they will grow and continue flourishing. And then the second thing is that, like a life path, which I've got at my time a couple of years back when I was fundraising, is that other founders who already got investment from the VC, if you're built with relationship with them, they could do the introductions for you. Paul, how's it for you? Like, where do you meet those people who you say, okay, now I play your game, it's fun, I believe in you?
When you're this famous, people usually come to you.
But do you actually respond?
No, I have an autoresponder that 90% of the time that's all you'll get. I think people don't make enough of an effort in their pitch and trying to be unique and different and memorable. I think too many people just phone it in and think if I send him a message on LinkedIn, I'm going to answer it. Like, no offense, I'm too important for this. And so it's one of these things where it's like, you probably have something really unique about your game, about what you're trying to do, about what your angle is, about what you bring to the market. I just think there's such a failure in messaging that often, which is why sometimes I see the best game studios are not just game developers, right? You need someone in that room who understands the seduction piece, who understands how to talk to, how to sell the game, because this is part of it, right? And you may think you have the greatest game ever, and if you just build it, zillions of people are going to play. But if you don't understand that seduction,
Sales as well. So because I do know that we have teams here who are doing more, service providing a service, etc. So if you're reaching out, 2-3 times and then you give up, it means that probably, and you didn't find a way how to personalize the message better, so then it's hook up the person. Then good point. How is it for you guys? Like any tricks on how to talk to publishers or to investors or partners in this case?
Well, first of all, it's good to hear that you still follow the age-old cold email stuff and you respect that. Again, as Paul mentioned, perseverance is the key, because most of the founders or salespeople, they give up after 5 follow-ups. So I've seen people. I mean, I've personally done more than 15 follow-ups and haven't heard back. But it's not a way to give up. So in my experience, I would say that if you're trying to get connections or if you're trying to network, you should always try the network and pendulum model, wherein you build up a community or you be part of a community, and you create a referral module among those community members, which in turn would increase your value and they would be sharing accordingly. That would create a community within itself. So that's where you can create more traction about your ideas and your games and all. But in terms of raising funds, don't just concentrate only on reaching out to a VC just to get funded. there are other means of raising funds, like Gokul mentioned, like Kickstarter. You can use crowdfunding as a source as well. So just to create attract an attention of a particular VC, you don't need to spend or create a game which is actually has a lot of duplicate contents which is readily available in the market, because most of them are following the same age-old methodology of gaming. So what right now investors are looking for, what is something new, what the public wants, what the general public wants. So what is your value proposition? What is your key value proposition? That's the key factor that you should be highlighting. Follow-ups are okay, but it's your game. You believe in it. So what is it that takes apart from other gamings in the industry? Try to create something or test something new. So every investor would be interested in that. Rather than following the same age-old formulas that has been working in the industry so far, it's not going to work again. Okay, so at some point of time, you need to come up with a plan or a different idea, or use your creativity in a sense, and push on to the value proposition that that game or that idea provides.
Right.
I'll just add one thing, because I love to complain, and I have a real bone to pick. You know what I hate? These messages that are like, hey Paul, I saw you at this conference, can we get on the phone for half an hour, here's my Calendly. Like, do you really think I'm going to click that, book a half an hour call without any, I don't even know what you want, right? Like, at least me, but I think most humans appreciate some level of directness, right? Tell me in your first message, what do you want from me? You're looking for investment, you're looking for an advisor, I know someone and you want an introduction, and have a backup plan. If you say I want investment, and I say, hey, it's interesting but not a fit, say, hey, but do you know, Tarek at Sharoop, maybe you can introduce me to him? I'll probably say yeah, like I believe in karma, and I also have made enough mistakes in my investing career. Like I passed on Airbnb's seed round, okay? So like I passed on about $4 billion in wealth because I was at dinner with a beautiful woman and I couldn't be bothered to listen to Joe Gebbia's pitch. But I've made these mistakes, and most VCs, most good investors, will always hedge their bet. This is why you very rarely get hard no's from an investor, because they want to make sure they leave the door just open enough that should something change, you get big traction, you get a big partnership, a big public, something, right? Something good happens. They want to leave that door open and say, oh, well, remember we met, well, here, I'll click the Calendly now, right? Like now they're ready to set up the meeting. And so, like, tell me what you want, but have a backup plan in case I don't give you what you want. Ask for something that you think I can for sure give you. And what you'll notice is in humans in general, it's a good sales lesson, when you get people helping you, agreeing to help you, saying yes to you, these things snowball. Right? Like if I help you, I make an introduction, it's something small, it requires none of my time, or you bring me as an advisor, and you give me some equity and you ask a couple questions every quarter, you'd be surprised over time how much goodwill you build, not just with me, but in the industry. And these are small things you can do that cost you almost nothing. And you want to build enough goodwill over time that eventually, I promise, you will get to the point in your journey, in your career, maybe not with this studio, but the next one, where raising money becomes one phone call. Right? That's where you think you need to get to. That should be the goal, where there's so much goodwill, there's so many people who want to see you succeed, who are rooting for you, that you're just one phone call away from a check.
Right, and then with asking alternative, having the alternative to asking for advice, right, or inviting to become an advisor. At the end of the day, you build a relationship, so you have the opportunity to show yourself and show your team, right? Which impossible to evaluate at any conference. It's just impossible, right? And I think we touched upon very important topics in terms of what are the qualities of founders should be there for them to look like investable for you. So we discussed direct, and we discussed having the persistence, right? What else? What else you think are the qualities, let's say, among your portfolios right now, like of founders which you know they're gonna make it?
So,
Yeah.
so first of all, 100% agree. So for our last 6 investments, and probably most of the last 6 that I led, came from somewhere, not a cold email, not a cold LinkedIn message, somewhere that some guy that we know introduced us. So not an event, not a cold email, not a LinkedIn, that someone introduced us. So always keep open doors that you can be introduced. You don't know who knows who. So always be helpful, always have some good communications. And second, I think this is a really good advice. Always study the startups that raised from top venture capitals. How did they do it? What were their MVPs? The background of co-founders. So if you look at one example, Cypher Games that raised $10 million for a seed round, which is, we all were shocked in that sense. If you look at co-founders, you understand why that raised at that valuation with that all. That's really important in that sense. Always study the ones that raised before you and see how they did it, how were they different. For us, in terms of co-founders, the chances are you are not going to raise from top capital in the world in your first venture, unfortunately. If you don't have any kind of background in terms of S&P 500 companies, not like a startup, if it's your first experience, it's really, really hard to raise capital for sure. That's quite hard. What we look for is, firstly, a technical C-level is quite important. Someone who knows the technical side of it. Technical co-founder is really, really important because it's really hard to build product, guys. You can have great ideas. Everyone has ideas, great ideas, some rare, but it's almost impossible to build your product. The product part is the hardest part in terms of startups. So always have a technical background, C-levels, even the CEO, CFO, it doesn't matter. Technical background is always helpful, always something important. And this has been really misunderstood by PC companies, mostly startups that I talk with in Turkish ecosystem, doing PC or console. They don't have any idea about business. No business person involved in the company. No one from, in terms of PE, VC background, investment background. So you need to have someone who has an understanding of economics in basic sense. So yes, technical co-founder is really important, but you need to have some person that understands the finance and business behind it, for sure.
Right.
I'll just add, I have another filter that I use, which is, if you're Horde, I will not touch you. I will not invest. If you're Alliance, I will. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you definitely are not going to get money from me. And I'm being facetious, but the point is, you need to be a gamer. You need to have played games, right? It's not good enough to think this is a cool industry, I want to get involved. I saw Ninja on the Today Show and I think I'm going to make a game now. I'm exaggerating, but if you don't play the games, if you don't understand them, what makes a good game, why the Onyxia quest line is the greatest gaming moment of all time, right? Like if you don't take the time to understand the craft itself at a deep level, I think you shoot yourself in the foot a little bit. You're starting from a disadvantage.
Right.
So guys, who all are planning to contact Paul, so you know how to contact him.
For the Alliance.
Be precise in your outreach. Okay. So another thing I would like to add is when you're reaching out to VCs, be sure to check out their portfolio of companies. Okay, and also try to reach out to people who actually know the game. Okay, don't just reach out just to get funding, because those are the people who actually know what you're building. Okay, they can help you decide what you are actually capable of. And another thing is, as Paul mentioned, he is much more interested to talk to people who actually know the game or who have played games before or who are gamers. So your approach should be the similar. Okay, so rather than reaching out to a VC just for funding, be sure that you're reaching out to the right person. Okay, and have patience. Okay, because 10 out of maybe 11 times you will be hearing a no. So you should not stop there. But again, be have a plan, be prepared on your unique value proposition, and then outreach.
I think a lot of times too, game studio founders look at the tech industry as being most analogous to gaming, right? Like, Zuckerberg built this in his dorm room, and then it's a $1 trillion company. That works in tech, and that happens in tech. In gaming, the closer analogy for gaming is movies, right? And Spielberg didn't make Schindler's List in his first movie, right? Like, that was not his first film. Anyone know what Spielberg's first movie was, first ever? No one knows. No one watched it, right? It was probably a horrible movie. No one cares. And so games are no different, right? Like the gaming industry is closer to that. You may, probably not gonna make the masterpiece on your first go around. And so being a practitioner, making games, that being part of your hobby and lifestyle, not just your business, but understanding them, playing them, making them, increases your chance of success exponentially, in my mind.
Yeah, I have to agree. As a failed startup owner, yeah, you need to fail sometimes. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I studied digital game design, so I'm not just a VC. I make my games whenever. I mean, for my first anniversary with my girlfriend, I made a game for her. So this is like how we do it. I like to make games just for fun, and you have to fail. I mean, if I see my first games that I made over 7 years ago, I will say, okay, no one will play them. Now I can say that I can make games for wherever I want. I can even they are still bad. I'm not a really good developer for sure, but I know for a fact that I fail too much to understand that understand my level for sure. So yeah, that analogy is quite correct. You have to fail to learn, to make better games for sure.
I like that. On that note, I think we had a fantastic discussion. Thank you so much for your time. And do we have any questions? Yes, please.
So you all mentioned persistency in contacting or talking to VCs is important. But from a CEO side who's trying to get an investment, they also don't want to seem that they're too desperate. So what advice can you give us there in the communication? Because you also mentioned that VCs are interested in a CEO who shows them that I don't need you right now. And there's something attractive about that also to the VC. So how do you balance not looking desperate and being persistent at the same time?
I don't know if you guys have thought. I have strong thoughts on this.
You go first. Yeah, I can go first.
It's literally no different than dating. It's the same balance you're trying to find of like, you want to go out with this girl, you want to ask her out, but you don't want to seem too desperate. So there's a fine line, you're right. And finding that balance is key between feeling like looking desirable and looking desperate. I always think, again, directness and transparency is key. So if you are raising, right, there's a lot of ways you can frame it without looking desperate. Like, here's where we are in our roadmap, right? The game's in development, we have an alpha out, here you can try it, here's what's really cool about it. By the way, we're gonna be looking to raise in the next 6 to 12 months, right? We don't need anything right now, but in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll need to raise a round. Would love to get to know you, would love to show you the game, come play it, come try it out. Doesn't come off desperate, gives me a reason to maybe try the game, right? You've told me you will be raising, so I know you're not just wasting my time, you're not, you're not there just to pretend. And so there's a way to balance the communication where you're not, total desperation, we need money tomorrow, meet with me now, and you're not too aloof, like, hey, come for coffee. Like, I don't know what that means, right? So there's a nice middle ground that once you find it, you'll see. The other thing I just want to mention, sorry guys, is never underestimate how much of a volume game raising money is. Because the investor on the other side, like the day you send that email to me, maybe that morning I watched the news and something upset me, right? Like, and I just don't feel like answering your email that day, right? Like, I don't know, or I got into a car accident, or like who knows, or a deal fell through, or there's all kinds of human things, and they're human on the other side, that are totally outside of your control. You will not be in control of that process 100%. And so focus on the targets that say yes to you. Don't try and turn like hard no's, right? If an investor tells you no, park it, maybe come back to them for your next round, send them updates if you want, but don't waste time and energy on trying to convince someone who's a no to become a yes. Focus on the people who are potential yeses. And don't underestimate that it's maybe not you. Maybe they just had a bad day. It happens all the time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for this panel. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Yes.
I'm not going anywhere. I can take questions.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you for this great session. How do you determine the valuation of a studio as in early stage?
Yeah, well,
It's invented. Yes, go
yeah,
ahead.
valuation is crazy. Valuation is basically bargaining, you know. It's valuation is like never decide. If you come to me with like a proof from like a specific financial institution that say my valuation is here, I can negotiate. Valuation is basic negotiation. However, who has the strongest hand decides the valuation. But
What the key metric that you are utilizing?
first thing to be sure to be fair, for sure. I mean, you don't want to kill them, they don't want to oversell you, so you have to be fair in terms of valuation. But valuation is so it depends on the stage of the company. If it's pre-stage, it's really hard to determine. But if they making EBITDA, they have some money, yeah, it's not that hard to decide. It's usually gets in like the how much, in how many years are you going to recoup your investments. In after pre-seed stages, that's how you look at it. But in pre-seed stages, when we hear ideas in terms of like idea stages, they only have that. How can I understand the valuation of the company? I don't even know. There is even no product there, so it's really hard to understand that valuation, and it becomes a negotiation point at that point.
And I'll just be blunt. You're asking the wrong question. This is a bad. This is a bad question. You should not care. If you're caring about valuation at this stage,
It's a red flag, by the way.
you're worried about absolutely all the wrong things.
Yeah, if you talk about your valuation too much, if you say, okay, 7 million is not enough for me, it has to be 10, you have to understand the fact that I am the decision maker here. I mean, you are looking for an investment, I either invest or not, but I am the decision maker, and not everybody gets to deserve, it's a bit harsh, but not everybody can get an investment. As the financial institutions are the final decision makers here. So you need to understand the fact that I make the decision. So if you talk your valuation too much times, it's a bit red flag, because it shows me that you care more than you don't even care about your product. You just care about money.
Yeah.
It's a really important part.
Talking about it is not the biggest crime. Thinking about it is the biggest crime. Right? Like, remember what I said. The goal should be get your career as a game developer to a point where you have so much goodwill and a track record of success that one phone call gets you a check. Right? So if I told you, your company is worth this, I'm going to take 99% of it, but it's going to be a huge success. What do you care? Like, okay, maybe you don't make millions on this one, but you may make it on the next one. Like, think long-term success, not short-term. Trying to hold on to as much equity as possible early on, big mistake, huge mistake. The biggest, probably fatal error you can make. It should not be in your math, it should not occupy your thoughts, you should not lose any sleep on it. You should feel like equity is candy to give away, has no value. And anyone who will take it, you're laughing, right? Like, here, take it, you'll do stuff for me, take it, right? Like, you should not care.
Sorry to interrupt you, we're out of time. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
an amazing panel
Thank you.
discussion. Yeah, please.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.